Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be talking about how to deal with the feelings of guilt when you come out of PMDD. This is not necessarily when you're in PMDD, it's when you come out of it and you're feeling back loving towards your PMDD partner and you're feeling like you understand them, you see them, but then you also see yourself and you see everything that you did while you were in PMDD and you begin to feel guilty about it because you know that you were not really doing the things that you would have normally done when you're in your follicular days, when you're in your good days with your PMDD partner, which means that you were not considering their feelings, you were only considering yours, you were looking at how they're the enemy, all the things that they've done wrong, and you're having to live with that. And I know for me, that is such a big struggle because I'm so appreciative of my PMDD partner when I'm not in PMDD. So when I'm in those moments of just really seeing him, really seeing who he is, what he brings to the table, when I'm not in PMDD, it's so clear. And I'm like, wow, I'm really grateful that I have him. I'm really grateful that he's here. When I go into PMDD, I always wonder why he doesn't do more, why he can't do more. What would it be like if he was a different PMDD partner that tended to this specific need that I had? And I take him for granted. And I have to be really open and honest with myself about what I do when it comes to when I'm in PMDD. I take him for granted. I don't recognize everything that he does, everything that he sacrifices, what his true intentions are. I question his motives. I'm like, oh, he's only doing this because of this reason. And it hits me really, really hard. And this particular month, I dealt with it a lot because I do a lot of traveling in my career, in my life. I do a lot of speaking conferences. I do a lot of things. And my partner and I are already long distance. So when I do these conferences and I travel, I need my me time in between that. And I feel guilty for taking my me time in times that my partner is really telling me, I really need you. I really need to be around you. I really miss you. And I'm like, I understand all that, but I really need my time because I'm about to go on the road. And by the road, I mean a plane. Like I'm not driving anywhere. But I just got back 2 days ago, and I was traveling for 12 hours straight. Not 12 hours straight. I had like 3 different flights, but I was traveling back from East Coast to West Coast of the US, and it was a lot. And the thing that I felt guilty about happened before my trip because my partner was also going on a business trip. So the thing that I want you to know about me and my PMDD partner, we're always traveling, we're always going on work trips. That's just what our careers require. So we've come to an understanding that we're just supportive of that. And I feel like I'm my best and he's his best when we're both fully engaged on one thing and another. It's really hard for us to get into that point of where we have one foot in the relationship and one foot in our career, because we're long distance. And so I knew that I was about to go on this trip. And so my partner had a little bit of time before his next trip. And he was like, hey, let's hang out. I'm going to come home and we're going to do all these things. And I had already made plans and scheduled time and like had a flight that was like not within the lines of him coming here. And he was very disappointed because sometimes when you're in a long distance relationship, long distance marriage, you're assuming that whenever you tell your partner that you're free to like spend time with them, that they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, absolutely, come on. But I'm really big on self awareness. I know that if I sacrifice certain things for my PMDD partner, that I know that are pertinent to other areas of my life, I'm going to begin to resent him for it. So what I mean by that is if he told me at the last minute, I'm coming home, so cancel everything that you have going on, which seems like it happens every month. Because again, it happened like last month when I was on another business trip and I was speaking. He would just thought he could just pop in, and he's very spontaneous. And I love that about him because I'm very spontaneous. But when it comes to my business, I'm very calculated. I'm very specific because I know what my business impacts. So I know that all of my clients have PMDD. So I don't take it lightly with rescheduling, with canceling. That's not a thing. Like I never want my things that I have going on with me interfere with what I'm providing for you. So I'm very cognizant of when he's saying, oh, just change that appointment. PMDD partners are not an appointment for me. You are my family, you are my people, you are my tribe, you are my community. I love you. So I'm not going to, and I love my PMDD partner. I want to preface that, but I don't take it lightly when I have to reschedule or rebook or whatever like that. And normally a lot of times it's of the request of the PMDD partner. I will only contact you like if it's absolutely necessary, but like that very rarely happens because I take your appointments so seriously because I know what it feels like to need to talk to someone, to fix something, to be in that place of being deep in PMDD and not really knowing what's going on and needing that guidance. So I don't take it lightly. And so when my partner is saying like, oh, I want to see you, like, let's just, just reschedule this. Sometimes I set those boundaries and I'm like, no, I'm not going to cancel this particular client or this particular thing. I love you, but I'm not going to do that because I know what it would mean for them. And so we got into one of those disagreements before I went on the trip because I plan everything out for the week. Every single week, I plan it out and I talk to my PMDD partner. I confirm with my private clients. I'm like, okay, we're for sure meeting at this time. Like, because once my week starts, it's like game on. It's game on because it's like nonstop. And it's very hard to reschedule during the week. And so I tell my private clients, there is no rescheduling of sessions during the week unless there's an emergency because my calendar is pretty much full. Like once the week starts, like all of my time for my clients is booked by the second, by the minute. And so when you're telling me, oh, I don't have time, like I don't have time because I have another client that like needs me, has invested, and I take every investment, every effort that a PMDD partners make very seriously because I see myself in that. I picture myself where I've had an argument with my PMDD partner. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm going to this person that's going to provide me with help. And I would never cancel that because I know what that means. That could mean all of a sudden, like my relationship ends. Because a lot of times, if there is no source of hope, that's when the PMDD partners, like the breakups come in. And so I don't take any appointment that I have with my private clients lightly or like, oh, like they'll be all right. So when my partner said this, I'm like, no, I actually can't cancel. And he was like taken aback and he was like, I'm shocked. I thought I was going to be able to, see you at this particular time. And I'm like, no, like we agreed to see each other when you came back from your business trip. And that's what I've built my life around. And I was very confident in that. I was in PMDD. So I was very much like, no, that's not going to happen. And then he was very disappointed. His mood had went from like really high to really low. And I felt the shift. You know, when you feel the shift from when your partner is in like a really good mood and then they get really defeated, that's what I felt. And because I was in PMDD, I was kind of okay with it because when I'm in PMDD, I have the ego. And I'm very self-aware of knowing the ego means my remorse for your suffering is minimal, meaning I don't care as much that you're suffering when I'm in PMDD because I have the ego. Now, I feel really confident in that. I'm like, oh, he'll be all right. Like, I have this going on. I have this going on. And I was fine with it. And I felt really good about it, the decision that I made, because it was a good deed. Because again, I'm thinking about PMDD partners. Like, if this is not a selfish thing. Like the fact that I'm not able to spend time with you is because I'm doing what I'm here to do. And then I came out of PMDD and all of a sudden I felt horrible. I felt like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I told him he couldn't come visit. I really miss him. I should have been there for him. What did he do when he didn't have my support? Like, I'm supposed to be his person. Like, all of the things that were not in my mind when I was in PMDD came rushing in. And I felt this overwhelming sense of guilt. And what came with that guilt was a plethora of spiraling thoughts of like, he should be with someone better than me. I can't believe that I did this to him. He deserves so much better. I don't know. And it's very weird because these are all thoughts that I didn't have when I was in that scenario in the beginning. But I felt them so strongly when I came out of PMDD. And shame is really a sense of I did something bad and I am bad. And that's how I felt like I was the bad guy. I was the person that caused my PMDD partner pain. And I didn't know, I couldn't fix it at that point because I was already like days in. I was days in of like traveling and doing my sessions. He was on his work trip by that time and I felt horrible. And I felt the tenderness and the closeness and all of the things that would have been very great if it would have been a couple of days earlier. And that's the thing with PMDD is like when that shift happens, you can't just catapult yourself into another realm of having those compassionate feelings. But I felt so much guilt and I felt bad about what I did. And so the first PMDD trauma transformational tool that I want to give you that's really helps me is I want you to explore why you felt guilt. What happened? What does that event or series of events say about you as a person? Are you thinking that because you made that decision, because you did that thing while you're in PMDD, that that's a part of you? Is that a reasonable interpretation of who you are as a person? Because I know in my mind, I was thinking to myself, the first word that came to my mind was, you're so selfish. Like you could have made time to see your partner. That's your husband. That's your person. Like then it's all coming back to me. It's like, that's your husband. That's your person. How dare you? And I immediately felt so much shame and guilt. Like, you're right. Like, that is my person. Like, I do feel horrible about that. And then you begin to, but I want you to ask yourself, is that a reasonable interpretation of who you are? Or are you really being too hard on yourself? Is it possible that you didn't do anything wrong at all? And I know when you're feeling that guilt, it's like, no, 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 I absolutely did something wrong. Like, and for me, that's how I felt. I'm like, I absolutely did something wrong. My partner wanted to see me, and I told him he couldn't see me because I already scheduled out my week and I had these things in place. And it was just going to be too much for me to move things around, move clients around. And I beat, like, I was beating myself up about that because I looked at my priorities. And to be honest, my priorities are, God, my family, my partner, my clients, like all of these things, and in a specific order. And I felt like I was going against that order, like my core values. And then it made me beat myself up even more. Cause then it's like, is that really your values? Because look at what you did. Have you ever been in that situation where you're trying to convince yourself that you shouldn't feel guilty, but then you have that little voice that's like, no, but like, look at what you did. Look at what you said. Look what you've done. You caused them pain. They probably hate you. And I didn't check in with my partners to see if any of those things were true, but I just felt it. I felt like, oh my gosh, he probably hates me. Like I put him on the back burner. Then you start to think if someone would have done that to me, I would have felt super horrible. But what I want you to do is to be honest with yourself about why you did what you did. And if you're in a place where you're honest with yourself and being like, hey, I did this thing because I'm genuinely, like, I was having a selfish moment. So I don't believe in calling yourself selfish, but like, there's been times where I've had a selfish moment where I'm like, yeah, I was being really selfish in that moment. I wasn't being selfish in this particular moment. But if I was, where there's been times where I've done it before, where I'm really just like, I just need my time. I just need my space. Like, don't come here. Like, I got stuff going on. A simple confession can get rid of your PMDD guilt because the more you hide it, the more intensity it has. Bring it into the light. Talk about what it is that you're ashamed about, what you're guilty about to your PMDD partner. And when you do that, when you're really honest and you're like, hey, like, I feel bad about this, that's when it begins to go away. But if you try to like act like, oh, I'm all good, like if I would have felt those feelings of guilt and not brought it up to my partner and be like, yeah, like I'm completely justified for what I did, it would stay there. It wouldn't go away. But me coming to my PMDD partner and saying to him, like, I know that I had a lot going on this week. I know that you had a lot going on this week. And I apologize for just not carving out that time. Because what it is was, it felt really overwhelming for me in the time because of everything else that I had going on. But that has no reflection of like how I feel about you, how much I love you. But I know in those moments that it can really feel like that because I was thinking about me and how I would feel if I really wanted to see my PMDD partner. And he was like, no, like I'm off work, but like I don't have that time for you because I have something else going on. Like I would feel like, well, I guess I'm not your priority. Like, how could you say that to me? So I put myself in his position, and that's what caused me to just confess and not try to defend my actions. So many times we are trying to defend the bad things that we do in PMDD. Like we know that it's bad, but we feel like maybe if I can defend it, I'll feel less bad about it, less guilty about it. And I, ironically, am guilty of that. Like I will say to you, like, oh, if you're mad at me about something, like, what are you mad about? So that I can defend it. Like I will go in on defending what it is that you're mad about, just so I don't have that guilty feeling. Because when you feel guilty about it, it doesn't feel good. at all. And I have gotten to a place where I'm just going to own up to it. And if I have to feel guilty afterwards, I have to feel guilty afterwards. But I have tools in place that I'm teaching you today that's going to really help you with, if you're just open and honest and been like, I messed up. I made the wrong decision. I did the wrong thing. Because for me, I immediately regretted not having my PMDD partner there. Because sometimes when you're thinking about doing things when you're in PMDD, they seem very overwhelming. But then once you do them, they're not that bad. And so for me, when my PMDD partner was like, oh, I'm going to come there and we're going to hang out and blah, blah, and I knew I already had a full schedule, I was like, no, like, I can't do that. Like, it was too much for me. But then when I got into the next day and I sorted everything out, I'm like, well, it wouldn't have been that bad, like having him here and integrated in everything that I was doing. And then I immediately felt guilty. But I want you to know, like, a simple confession can release a big part of that guilt. And that confession comes with not defending yourself. And the next PMDD trauma transformational tool is, I want you to understand that you are not permanently defined by your behavior that happens when you're in PMDD. No one is perfect 100% of the time. So I want you to take the pressure off of yourself of feeling like, however I acted when I'm in PMDD, that's just me. Because when PMDD comes, you turn into this horrible creature and you have this horrible thing living inside of you that you didn't ask for. And you're not going to be perfect 100% of the time. And so everyone, even your partner, does things that are considered wrong or bad at times. Everyone has thoughts that make them feel ashamed afterwards. And even the most amazing people make mistakes or think thoughts that aren't aligned with who they really are. It's a part of life. And when it comes to PMDD, it is part of your month. Like, it is guaranteed that you're going to go through that shift. So the things that you've done and said while you are in PMDD don't have to define you, right? So, like, if you go into PMDD 1 month and you say things that are horrible and do things that are horrible, when you go into the next month, you have the opportunity, the very unique opportunity of starting the month off fresh. As long as you do the tools that heal your PMDD partner from the last blow up, which, we can work on privately. And that's what I work on with my private PMDD partners, private sessions, is we talk about what they need to do to heal so that when the next month comes along, they don't have to continuously be dragging some baggage in there that happened from months and months and months. Because when you have PMDD, there's guaranteed to be baggage. And that's what I'm telling you all. If you're not having sessions with me to process the things that are going on, when you go into another month, you're carrying those issues into another month. And they're piling on each other and piling on each other until the point where they're going to begin to be overwhelming either for you or your PMDD partner, because what you don't deal with continues to grow. Think of it like a plant. So if you have a plant of lying, deceit, of manipulation, of bitterness, of resentment, of misunderstanding, whatever it is that plant is, the longer it stays within you without being plucked up and dealt with, it's just growing. And you're going to begin to see it in every circumstance that you have in your life. You could be talking about the simplest thing, but you're in PMDD and you're having this argument about something that has nothing to do with the actual thing. It's because it's residue from past PMDD fights. And until you deal with them, they're going to continuously show up in your PMDD relationship. But I want to let you know, this doesn't have to affect you forever. We need to go through the process of healing it, of really talking about it, of being open with our partners about it. Because a lot of times we're suffering with things that our partners don't even know about. And I know for me, in this particular situation, the reason why I was suffering so much with like telling him, oh yeah, you could come home, was I was thinking about past PMDD fights. I was being triggered by like, oh no, what if he comes and this happens? What if he comes and this happens? And I was picturing all of these different scenarios that could happen, but actually nothing actually happened. And so I felt guilty about making a decision based off of that. But when I was in the moment and I was like, oh, he wants to come. Oh, no, I can't allow him to come because this is probably going to happen. That was a fear of mine. And I had to like use the tools within myself to deal with that fear. And once I dealt with that fear and really feel like understood the reason why I didn't want him to come, that's when I came to the realization of like, oh, wait, this is not a him thing. This is a me thing. This is because I still have fear because I still haven't gotten over this particular thing. And I felt really guilty about it because I saw when I got in my follicular days, my good days, I saw like he just genuinely wanted to be with his person. He was not going to act like how he did before, do the things that he did before that triggered me. He just wanted to be with me, and I didn't allow that. And I felt so much guilt and shame over that. And I started to question the kind of PMDD partner I am. And what I needed to do was really number 3 was I needed to forgive myself. And what I realized was even if you don't understand the cause of your guilt, like you still can forgive yourself. Because even though I knew the reason why I did what I did, I could still resist the idea of forgiving myself. Because I could be like, no, you knew what you were doing. Like I could hold myself to that standard of being like, no, I'm not going to forgive myself because you knew what you were doing when you told him he couldn't come. And there's those voices on one side of your shoulder, I always say, that's telling you why you shouldn't forgive yourself and why you should continuously be hard on yourself. But what I want to tell you is that you know your heart. You know the type of person that you are. Even if you don't believe the good things that people say about you, you know who you are. So you know if you did something maliciously or if you did it like based off of fear and other things. And that's where I always look at. When I'm going to forgive my PMDD partner, I want to do what is the point number 4 of the PMDD trauma transformational tool. I want to consider what led to feeling the guilt. What are you thinking that can prevent this from happening again? What can you do about it? How can you avoid the situation or behavior that led to doing this? How can you make changes in your life that will alleviate this happening again? If I start to see the answers to those questions, then I can forgive. Because I'm like, okay, we all make mistakes. We all do things that we don't mean to do that are completely out of character sometimes because we're in stressful situations. But I always look at, is your partner in a stressful situation? Are you in a stressful situation? If the answer is yes, then you're liable to do some of these things because when you're stressed, you're not at your best. And I stand by that. I'm going to get it on a t-shirt, like all the things, because that's how I feel about me. When I'm in my good days and everything's going great, I'm one way. But when I'm stressed and I'm in PMDD, I'm a completely different way because I'm not at my best. And if I was to hold those expectations of myself to be a certain way, I'm not going to be that way because I'm stressed and I'm in PMDD, and I need to realize that. I need to realize that. So the next PMDD trauma transformational tool is to avoid Avoid those that are intent on making you feel guilty. So there's always, someone, maybe your partner, that feels obligated to make you feel as bad as possible about yourself. These are the people where if you're coming to your partner and you're saying, yeah, I genuinely am upset about this and I'm really mad that I did this. I'm mad at myself. And they're just like, yeah, you should be. Because that made me feel like this, and this. That made me feel like crap. So you should feel bad about yourself. And in those moments that you're feeling that intense guilt, I want you to avoid this person, even if it's your partner, because that's not what you need. You need to surround yourself with people that want the best for you, even when you're not showing who the best of you is. That's what love is. So even if you're going off on a tangent, you've done certain things that you're not proud of, you don't need anyone making you feel worse about that situation. And that's a red flag for me. Like if I'm coming to you and I'm like white flag, like I did it, I surrender, it was me, it was on me, and you're still feeling the need to like go in on me and like go hard, as my partner says, that's a problem. Because if your partner comes to you and they're genuinely apologizing, you need to forgive them. And the same thing, if you're going to your partner and you're genuinely apologizing, they need to forgive you. Stop this thing of holding it over their head because you're still thinking about what they said and did and what that meant. Let that go. When they tell you that they're sorry and that they should have handled it differently, you need to forgive them, or else it's going to torment you for a very long time. So it's not just going to torment them because you're not opening up to them anymore. It's also going to torment you. Let it go. And if that's something that you need help with, you need to go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com, and you need to book private sessions with me to deal with that. Because if your partner has done something that's genuinely triggered you, it's offended you, and you've not been able to get over that, you're not going to be able to move forward in your relationship until you do. Until you get to that point of, yeah, I understand that they did this, but I forgive them because of this. If you're around people, friends, family, that you tell them what's wrong, and they're like, oh, you need to leave them, oh, you need to break up with them, be very careful. Be very careful of who you tell your arguments to, because not everybody wants to see you win. Not everybody wants to see you be in that relationship. It's disposable for them. They're not in love with your PMDD partner. They're not that invested. Only you are. So when you're telling it to a family member, a friend, and you're like, hey, I have this going on, and they're like, oh, you deserve so much better than that. If you just get with someone else, anyone that you get with while you have PMDD and you're in a relationship, you're going to have to use these tools with. You're going to have to use these tools. So I don't care if you turn it from one partner to another partner to another partner. You have PMDD. They're going to have to learn how to manage that, how to navigate that. No one on this earth is born with the capacity of knowing what to do in a PMDD relationship just off like the cusp. It is very intentional. You have to intentionally practice the tools, use the tools, know the tools. And that's why I created the PMDD Partners Breakup Academy. So you can use the tools and start repeating them in your relationship to where they become a habit. But it's not habitual it's not a habit to just go into it and be like, oh, you're in this state, I'm going to do this. You don't know what to do, but you want to know what to do. So if someone is saying you should break up because a partner doesn't know how to deal with PMDD, they don't know how to deal with your emotions, your rage, that's BS. It's called get the help with the person that you're with to handle the situation, not get another partner, because you're just going to end up in the same situation. And the next tool is I want you to avoid situations that trigger your guilt. Anything that you've done to your PMDD partner, avoid the environments that are contributing to that. Because when you avoid that, you're going to feel less shame, less guilt, and you're going to be able to move on versus being in that place of where the person is like, oh, did you not let your partner come home? Like, what did you do about that? Like, don't be around people and circumstances that are continuously reminding you of the mistakes that you've made. Because I know for my friends, my true friends, when they tell me that they've done something wrong and we talk about it later, I'm not bringing it up and making them feel bad about it. It is what it is. It happens. It was a mistake. But if you have friends that are just constantly harping around you, making you feel worse about it, friends or family, like you don't need that. And that's actually going to make you go deeper into the hole of feeling guilty. If you have people that are telling you that you're doing things wrong and you should have never done that. And oh my goodness, I can't believe. That is where I go into my last PMDD trauma transformational tool, and that is connect with someone that knows what you're going through. Studies show that the more isolated you are, the more likely you are to feel shame and guilt with what it is that you're going through. And I know this is so true with PMDD partners because I spent years of feeling that guilt and shame alone, and it was horrible. And the longer I stayed in that place of just trying to navigate it by myself, the worse I felt. But if you connect to regularly interact with PMDD partners in a meaningful way, a positive way, you're less likely to feel that guilt. And even if you do have those moments of feeling guilt, you'll be more compassionate with yourself if you have that sense of connection to people that are suffering with the same thing that you're suffering with. And that's why I created the PMDD Partners Breakup Academy, because I want you to see, not just hear, see that you're not alone. And this month in April is PMDD Awareness Month, and I am so committed to sharing this awareness, but I want it to be on the sense of not feeling guilt, not feeling shame. Because even though you've gone through all that you've gone through in PMDD, you're still the same person that you were before you felt this guilt. Nothing's been taken from you. Don't let PMDD take the best parts away from you. And if you're unable to deal with these feelings of guilt on your own, I want you to contact me. Get some sessions in so that I can pour into you. Because letting go of that PMDD guilt, it's going to set you free. And I am so passionate about this because freedom is such a big core value of mine. I really believe that if my gift to PMDD Partners is simply freedom, that's all I need, because I remember feeling not free. I remember feeling trapped and like this thing is taking over my life. It's taking over my relationship. It's taking over my body. I don't know what else to do with it. But when I give you tools for your relationship, at least let this be the one area in your PMDD that you feel free and you get that support. And it honestly, it will make everything that you're going through even better. And I know so many times you may listen to people that say that, like having PMDD and having a partner makes me feel worse. It is actually better. And I want to provide something to you. So if you join the PMDD Partners Breakup Academy for the month of April, then I will be providing you with an ebook that is completely free, that is completely dedicated to PMDD. And it's really going to help not just you, but you and your partner. So if you need to join this, if you know that you need this, you need these resources, go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com, click on the PMDD Partners Breakup Academy and join. What you're going to get in this is weekly sessions that are pre-recorded that you're going to be able to see on different topics. And I'm going to be teaching you. So this is a little bit different from my private clients where I'm going through a sense of really seeing what's going on with them on a customized basis. With the PMDD Partners Breakup Academy, you're going to be able to see that you're learning more about PMDD and your relationship every single week, and you don't have to be live. You can watch the recordings and they're going to be there for you, because I know that I now have PMDD partners in 55 different countries, different time zones, all the things. So where I initially wanted to do this where it would be live, I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to happen, because when are we all going to be in the same time zone? So I'm pre-recording these videos about different topics that you are for sure going to have come up in your PMDD relationship. But I feel like if you look at these videos and you have the tools and you're able to provide them to your partner to watch too, then when the situations happen, you'll be less likely to break up because you know that you have tools in that particular area. We go from PMDD rage to PMDD intrusive thoughts, all the things. So I need you to go in there, grab your spots, and continue to learn about PMDD so we do not have these monthly breakups. We got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.